Hello, everyone. It's a first episode here at Riichi Out to Mahjong Friends. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Kenji.
And my name is Masa. And
And
Michelle?
Michelle.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
No worries, no worries, no worries. We're gonna keep everything raw here.
Okay.
It's our first time doing this, and I hope everyone's excited for this little kickoff. Our plan is to reach out to all groups out there that play mahjong, and we want to pick up, maybe one person per group, special guests here and there, maybe even seminars. It's an open community, so we just wanted to kick something out there to the public, and yeah, just have everybody really excited to this game called Mahjong. And Masa and myself, we're from LAPOM here in Los Angeles, and we were thinking, who should the first guest be? We had different options, but we wanted to go with one of our YouTube favorites, Michele. She is here with us today, and she, as some of you may know, she has a YouTube channel out there, posts on a regular day basis. And not only she does Riichi, but she also covers a lot of the other mahjong rules. So we wanted to pick her brain, kind of ask her some questions, and yeah, just have a fun conversation. So hope you guys are enjoying, or will enjoy our little segment here. And yeah, so Michele, I think we kind of gave a quick intro.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Mhm.
excited to participate.
Mhm. All right. So I guess some basic questions first for the viewers or listeners out there that aren't familiar with your channel yet. Give us a quick intro of, let's see, a couple questions. One, what your channel's about, what you focus on. Two, let's see, how you got into Mahjong. And three, what are your future goals regarding Mahjong? Let's see.
Okay.
that's a good question.
Okay, great. So my Mahjong channel was really birthed from my passion, which is Mahjong. I actually have been playing and teaching Mahjong since 1972.
Mhm.
So I was born into it, literally.
Mhm.
And so I've taught Mahjong since 1990, different versions of it. And I had a website with information about my background and the types of lessons that I offer. And so I would do local lessons. And I have been watching YouTube videos just as a form of entertainment. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Why don't I put my lessons online? And so that's what inspired me to start my YouTube channel. And when the first series that I posted was Lessons for American Style, because that's the style that's played primarily in this area of the country, in the Atlanta area. It's American style. So that's the first lessons that I recorded and posted. And it really got traction right away. I had followers right away. And so I continued, and I decided to focus on 4 styles, because as we know, there are a lot of ways to play Mahjong.
Many different rules.
Yep, many different rules. So I decided that I would pick 4 because I can't do it all. I think it would affect the quality if I tried to spread myself too thin. So I decided to do American style using National Mahjong League rules, which is the most popular played version in America. And then I chose another American version called Wright-Patterson, which is Air Force rules. And that's what I grew up playing. It's kind of in between Asian versions and American style, but it's more like Asian versions than it's actually more like classical Chinese. So they adopted the classical Chinese scoring. So a lot of the combinations for Wright-Patterson are very Asian version like. But American style is quite different. And we can talk about that later if you want to. But I also learned how to play Cantonese style in probably, let me see here, probably 1995, I guess. I learned Hong Kong style, and I really liked that because it kind of reminded me of the style my grandfather played, which I'll get to that in a minute too. So those are the three styles that I'd been playing for years. And then in, let's see, 2009 about, I learned how to play Japanese Mahjong or Riichi. And I learned that when I was running a meetup, and we were playing American style at a sports bar, and a guy came in and he was flabbergasted to see us playing Mahjong. And he said, "You want to learn how to play Reached?" And I said, "Absolutely." And we got our tiles out and he taught us how to play that night. And I was hooked right away. I went home and I scoured the internet for rules, and I started studying and have been playing ever since. I don't know very many people who play that version, so I primarily play online. So my YouTube channel is based on those four versions because American style is the most popular. Hong Kong style is entry level. So I like to encourage people who are brand new to the game to start with Hong Kong style, because if you learn that, you can branch out into any other version on a very short learning curve. So then I like doing Japanese style because it's complex, it's sophisticated and technical, and that's where I'm really pushed as a player. So that's why I chose those four styles. And as far as how do I know about Mahjong, how did I learn about Mahjong? I am actually part Filipino. My grandfather came over on the deck of a ship at the age of 14, and so he brought Mahjong with him. And when I was growing up and visiting him, he would be playing with his friends. And so I saw Philippine Mahjong, Filipino style Mahjong, which is a little different. I mean, it's based on 4 sets in a pair, but you know, the winds and dragons are actually played as flowers. So it's a little, and they also have a scoring that's a little bit different as well. But it's big money gambling. When I saw him play, there was a lot of money on the table. So we would always see him play, and my mom never learned. And then later, when I was raised in the Air Force, and so we would be transferred about every 3 years, and on one of our bases, the ladies had a Mahjong group, and they taught my mom how to play Wright-Patterson style. And then my mom taught me, and at the time I was 12 years old, and so I was mature enough to pick up the game, and so I learned how to play, and it was just one of those things that really bonded us together, and so it stuck with me. I actually have 5 brothers and sisters, and out of all of us, I'm really the one who took it to heart. And Mahjong was one of her passions. And so it was always just one of those things that really bonded us together. She passed away in 2004, and I decided that I would carry on the passion in her honor. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a story that I don't think I've seen in your videos. You might have mentioned it in one of them, maybe, but I don't think I've watched any of those episodes where you went that deep. I know you have different playlists based off of the rules.
Yes.
Like the Wright-Patterson playlist, we've seen that. But for our listeners out there, let's go over some, I guess, simple concepts and basics, maybe the differences between the styles. Most of our player bases in this Discord chat is from Riichi, or they only know Riichi.
Okay.
And they know the existence of, Hong Kong style, Singapore, Filipino, American, and all these rules. But let's have the sensei or the teacher here give us an explanation on what the differences are. Maybe starting from the tiles. Like, let's say Japanese style or Riichi style Mahjong uses maybe a slightly smaller tile set compared to the other ones.
Okay.
And I know that one's specific to Riichi.
Yes. Yeah. They're smaller. They're deeper than most of the other tiles, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think just real estate on the table, maybe. It's just a smaller set. Cantonese style, or most Asian versions like Taiwanese, Singapore. I'm not sure about Korean style, but I would imagine that any other Asian version other than Japanese style are usually played with the big chunky tiles. I call them chunky tiles. I don't know what the exact dimensions are, but they're probably twice as big as the Japanese style tiles, but they're big and chunky, and a lot of people like playing with them. Mahjong is a very tactile game, so no matter what the size is of your tiles, it's just part of the culture of the game is touching the tiles and hearing the clatter of the tiles and things like that. So for most Asian versions, I think they play with the chunky tiles. And then for American style, when it was brought into the United States, I've seen old photos like from the 1920s, and they're playing with bone and bamboo small tiles, like a vintage Cantonese set. So, and they're big enough to where they could stand on a table without a rack. But at some point, the tiles got thinner. And so racks were made to hold the tiles. So American style versions are played with racks and thinner tiles. The tiles are a little bit bigger. They're a little taller than Riichi tiles, but they're a little thinner, so they don't really stand on their own very well. That's why you have to use the racks.
I see. Kind of like Scrabble. Not that thin.
Or they're more like short domino tiles. They feel more like domino. They're made out of that polyresin domino material. So some people even liken American Mahjong to dominoes. Sometimes they'll say that, which it's nothing like dominoes. I think because some of the more modern sets are made out of the same material. Some are even kind of that ivory color. So they look a little similar to that. And if people aren't looking closely, they might assume you're playing dominoes.
I see.
But yeah, it's definitely not dominoes.
I see.
So as far as the tiles themselves, Hong Kong style, we play with flowers in our hands, but they're bonus tiles. When you play Wright-Patterson style, which is Air Force rules, and that's usually played by Air Force dependents, and I suppose some officer or actual military people may play the game, but I think they created the game for spouses to keep them busy. And the rule book that they have does have some combinations that are not the traditional 4 sets in a pair, where the sets can be 3 in a sequence or 3 of a kind. And we call them in Wright-Patterson, like Cantonese style, we call them Chow, Pung, and Kong. Flowers are bonus tiles. So it's very much like Asian versions, but then there are some tangents. So there are some that are quite that break the rule of the 4 sets in a pair. But some of the hands would look very, very familiar to many Cantonese style players. And then American style is quite different. The flowers are actually part of your hand. They're not bonus. They're in American style. I call it a game of multiples because there are no chows. There's no chi. There's no 1, 2, 3. With a couple of exceptions every now and again. But it's really more about pairs, pungs, kongs, and we even have 5 of a kind. And of course, you've got to have jokers for a 5 of a kind because you only have 4 of every tile. So there are actually 8 jokers in an American Mahjong set. So American style is about multiples, pairs, pungs, kongs, quints, and then there are some single and pair hands as well. But that's what really differentiates it. And then there's some game mechanics that also differentiate it from any other version. A lot of people think that American style is, you know, maybe too easy because they know there are jokers, but it's really not easy. It's actually quite difficult. It's challenging, and it's probably the hardest one to learn, but once you learn it, it's easy to play. There is strategy involved, and there is luck involved, but it does definitely take a lot of critical thinking and decision making to play American style.
Okay,
I see.
so I have a couple questions.
So I guess, okay, awesome, let's go.
Other Mahjongs, like other than Riichi, how are they using the point system? Like, are they using the point stick or chips?
That's a good question.
Okay, so for Wright-Patterson style, we use colored chips that look like small poker chips. They have a little hole in the middle, and then the racks that we play with have posts, and the chips are held in those posts. So the scoring for Wright-Patterson is based on classical Chinese. So we do, you know, every flower is 4 points, a pair of dragons is 2 points, and then you have, you know, score for pungs, kongs. You have doubles, like if you're fully concealed, you get a double. If you're in one suit, you get 3 doubles and things like that. So there's that whole piece where scoring is a bit complicated, actually. But the denominations are in colored chips, which are actually converted to a monetary value. So a rack with chips would equal $1. So when you play for $1 a rack. And if you don't do well, you got to buy another rack. So anytime I played, you know, I'd be lucky to win $3. You know, for Wright-Patterson style. So that's how Wright-Patterson works for American style, or using National Mahjong League rules and the typical American style, because there's actually, let me see, 3 other versions based on the National Mahjong League concept. And we can go into that if you'd like to later. But as far as the values of the hand, the values start at 25 points and they go up to 60 to 75 points per hand. And most people play for cash money. And yeah, so we just pay each other in quarters, nickels, and dimes. And then we establish, a lot of times people establish a limit. For example, a real common limit would be $5, and we call that a pie. So if you lose your pie, which is $5, you can play for free. That way people aren't breaking the bank, as it were.
I see.
Yeah, so a lot of people play with a pie. They establish some kind of a limit. Sometimes it's $3, sometimes it's $5, sometimes it's $10. It really depends on how long you're playing. If you're playing maybe 3 to 4 hours, a $5 pie is a good amount. If you're playing for 2 to 3 hours, a $3 pie is good. If you're playing all day long, no pie. You play no holds barred. You just get your money out. Yeah, just pay as you win, pay as you go. So that's how the money goes.
Interesting. So it seems like the history in general, for regardless of the rule set, I guess Mahjong does kind of tie into money at some point.
It's
for
all,
most part.
As far as I've always, since I've learned how to play and played all my life, I've always played for money. I've never not played for money unless I play online. I see. I don't play for money online, but when I play live, I've always played for money. It's always been, you know, penny a point, basically, is what American style is, really.
I know in Japan, you know, they've been playing there for quite some time, but maybe compared to the other rule sets, the history behind it might be a little newer compared to the others. And but you know, back in the day there was money involved, but nowadays they're trying to push this thing called Kenko Mahjong, or healthy Mahjong as they call it, where they don't gamble, they don't drink, they don't smoke while playing.
Oh, wow.
They're also trying to put a more competitive, like a league, like a professional league, that's just purely Mahjong and purely competition.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which it's kind of interesting to see how that is being the trend now in Japan.
Hmm.
I know I've seen some ads for American style Mahjong where there's a cruise where a bunch of people just get on the cruise and there's like a tournament going on every day.
Yes.
There was one in Australia last month where I think some people from the US did compete, and there was some monetary value there, but it was like a pot. Like the winner of the tournament will get the cash value, but it wasn't per game.
No, no. Tournaments usually are 3 days, and usually, depending on the size of the attendance, it determines the prize pool. So if you have like 200 people at a tournament, you might have up to 6 place winners.
Oh, I see.
First through 6, and then they would, first place would be the highest amount, all the way down to 6th place would be all cash prizes.
I see. So even for the non-Riichi, non-Japanese style Mahjong, there are tournaments,
Yes.
and there is a prize involved. Not per game, but similar to the competitions out there, it's the grand prize up to X amount of people, the top tier people.
Right.
I see.
And Michele,
Have
I have another
how
question.
many? Oh, from Melissa. Okay.
I saw some of the past months, like last month's like post, some of the TV shows picked up the American Mahjong, and they say American Mahjong population is about like 100,000. Was it like 300,000?
I think it's a lot more than that. I thought I saw a number like up to 300,000. I mean, it's worldwide,
Is it?
because there are a lot of Americans who live abroad.
Is it
So
true?
let me
Is it
see.
true?
I wonder if the National Mahjong League has a number, because sometimes they'll share how many cards they sell in a given year.
Because I
And
have
most American style players play using the National Mahjong League card.
yeah, but I have never seen they playing in Los Angeles here.
I'm sorry?
I have never seen them
Well,
playing in the Los Angeles, so I was wondering, is that really like
well,
300,000?
it's American style players tend to play in homes. They tend to play in homes, at synagogues, at rec centers, senior centers, and primarily in private games at home.
I see.
So
Uh-huh.
Not
you
like
don't
a
typically
open
see
public,
them.
like cafe
Pardon?
or game stores.
I'm sorry.
Like not in the cafe or the game stores, or like, is there any
No,
particular
typically
American?
not for American style. Maybe for Cantonese style, or Reach might play at a game stores, or even in sports bars. We play in sports bars, so we're kind of different because we're a meetup, and I like to do meetups in public places.
That's interesting. That's new.
Sports bars.
Yeah, sports bars.
Do you go to a specific or let's go into this question. How were you able to secure those locations? Like, do you know the owner directly, or did you have to find a place? And because I think some of the players out there that do play but only online, the thing is they can't find a place because maybe some of them are, a little insecure. They don't want to bring people that they don't know directly into their homes, apartments.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we wanted to ask you.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually what I do as far as running a meetup, whenever I need to find a venue, I take my Mahjong sets. I usually bring one of each kind. I have lots of sets, but I bring a Riichi set, I bring a Cantonese set, and an American set, and I bring it all with me, and I go into the sports bar. I introduce myself to the manager, and I share about my meetup, and I ask if they would be willing to allow us to play. for, if we all order lunch or dinner,
Mm-hmm.
depending on when we go, and then hang out and play for maybe 4 hours, would they allow that? And some do, some don't. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there and be bold and find the manager and introduce yourself and explain what it is you're doing. Some may, depending on what state you're in, there are laws about gambling. And I went through, I don't see Mahjong as gambling, though. It's not like poker. It's really like penny a point, almost like bridge players. They play at penny a point. So I don't really see that as gambling. And I went through a whole drama with gambling, and I've spoken to law enforcement and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation about playing for money and penny a point Mahjong, and they all said don't even worry about it, but we try to keep it on the down low, just so that if any patrons are uncomfortable seeing money change hands in a game, we don't want to upset anybody, so we try to be discreet.
I see. But you do give the manager of the sports bars a heads up of that aspect, or do you kind of keep that as a hush hush?
No, we do. We're up front, and if they say, yeah, we really don't want it, we don't want that happening here, then I just try to find another place.
I see. And when you say sports bars, this is my image. Obviously, you go there for beers, cocktails, whatever's, and the TVs are on, you're watching a hence sports bar. And that usually happens at night. But when you do your meetups, how does that work? Do you do that when it's crowded, or do you try to find a time where it's not crowded?
Yeah, it really depends on which style. American style is usually during the day when it's pretty quiet. The crowds and the loud, partiers typically come out at night, and that's when it's a better environment for Riichi and Cantonese style. I think those styles are a lot more. They're not as. It's not as critical to hear what's being discarded, because with American style, it's played a little differently, and you've really got to be able to hear each other. And so if there's a lot of noise and traffic and whatnot, people get really distracted, and so yeah, it's not so good for American style, but for Cantonese style or Hong Kong style and Riichi, it's not so bad.
I see. And then when you do play, I'm sure it's not like a situation where you have the whole place reserved just for your meetup. So, some other people that go there just to grab a beer or just to watch the game, they see 4 people sitting down and have tiles out there and playing, right? So,
yes.
Do you have any retention rates of new players because they see what's going on? They'll say, "Oh, what is that? Oh, it's Mahjong. I never knew how to play." But any situations like that.
Absolutely, yeah. People, it's very intriguing. People stare at us, and they even little kids get all curious. And, some even come and try to touch the tiles, So it draws a lot of attention, and many times we'll have people walk by and say, "Oh my gosh, you're playing Mahjong! I play Mahjong!" And I have as a matter of fact, I carry contact cards, kind of like business cards with our meetup information on it. So anytime somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I play Mahjong," I give them a card and send them to our meetup so they could think about joining our meetup and playing with us.
So that's how you have, I guess, populated Mahjong in your area. So that gives some of the ideas to our listeners out there who are trying to find people but can't. Sports bars are a great option. Any other venues that you've tried that worked?
When people ask me online, a lot of times I see online, I'm part of a couple Facebook groups, and people will say, well, I just moved to this area, I need to find a group, or our group fell apart, we need to start a new group and whatnot. So I usually recommend that people contact depending on what style they play, of course. If it's American style, to contact local synagogues, local rec centers, senior centers, and meetup.com. And actually, I would probably try Meetup first, because Meetup will have all styles of Mahjong. So Meetup is a really great way to go. And even if you can't find your own group, start your own Meetup. That's what I did. When I moved from Denver to Atlanta, and I created a Meetup, and I didn't know anybody here, and I created a Meetup. I had 12 people at my first game, and the game has been going ever since. We're kind of in an ebb moment right now for several reasons, but I'm hoping to build it up again.
So with 12 people, everybody plays a specific rule, or do like, let's say some of the players prefer a certain style over the other, and then you guys have like let's say 4 tables but different rules at each table?
We have played that way. And when I had my first meeting, I think I posted it as Hong Kong style, because that's kind of the basics, and it was a good entry level, because some people who were coming knew nothing about Mahjong. So we taught them from scratch. So we made the first one Hong Kong style. And then I learned that a couple of the players played American style. So we had it where anybody who RSVP'd to the event would say which style they wanted to play that night. And we would kind of map out who's going to play where, when. And we had a few players that played both, so we could all, take turns jumping in on different styles as needed. So for several years, we played that way, and we got pretty big. We had, for many months, we had maybe 6 tables going, all different styles. We had Hong Kong, Riichi, and American style for many, many months. And then our group went through some drama, and the group kind of dissipated, and I've been trying to build it back ever since. So right now I decided to split the styles out, because I was afraid that maybe the Riichi style players weren't interested in coming to an American style meetup. And I thought that maybe they thought that we were maybe not quite as serious about Mahjong, because American style is so different. So I decided, well, let me split it out and see if I could get some attention for just Riichi. And I haven't quite gotten off the ground on that.
Oh, I see.
But I'm not giving up. I'm keeping it up there, and hopefully I'll draw some attention, and we'll be able to get a group going here in this area.
That's the way.
I know Atlanta is a pretty big city when it comes to like businesses, and when you say Riichi players, I'm wondering if there are people from Japan that actually go there for work, or are they non-Japanese, just people that happen to know the Riichi Mahjong style?
Yeah, I don't know. I've lived here since 2008, but I work virtually, so I actually don't get out that much. So I have a very small sphere of influence. My sphere of influence is really digital or virtual, I guess you could say.
But when you did hold these meetups, and when you said the Riichi players, so were they Japanese, or were they? No. Oh, okay.
Everybody was American. So I don't remember how this guy learned how to play, but he taught us the rules and gave us a printout of rules from online somewhere. I think it was EMA rules. And that's what kind of just launched my interest. And we never saw him again after that first night. So we studied the rules, and 3 or 4 of us decided we were going to really learn how to play. And so we would play it for several months. And then for whatever reason, the group kind of fell apart, and we just haven't played in a long time. Somehow we lost interest, or people's lives just changed, and it just kind of went away. So I'm trying to bring it back, because I would really love to play in live games, because I think it's quite different than playing online.
It's totally different.
It's a different dynamic.
Yeah. But I think that would go with same could be said for all the styles, right? I mean, there's online aspect, but I guess the word poker face would probably carry over
Yeah,
to Mahjong as
you
well.
you 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 can't use your skill with tells,
Yeah,
because when
yeah.
I play with real people, I can kind of, I'm a very sensitive person, and I can pick
Mhm,
up on some tells.
mhm,
I'm a very observant person, so if
mhm.
you play with me, I'm going to be watching you.
People watch out.
I'm wondering if there's certain manners when it comes to other skill sets. Like let's say in Japan or Japanese style Riichi Mahjong, there's certain things that people used to do, like back in the days. They used to stop at a certain tile to kind of give that impression that I'm waiting on a certain
Uh-huh.
They're
wait.
bluffing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, because the manners are more strict, that's considered a no-no.
Is
Um,
it? How do
mhm.
they police that?
Well, once they open their hands, if it's tenpai or not, they see their hands, and then people that really watch
Oh,
the ins and outs of their tiles, their hands, they would
yes.
actually point out, say, "Hey, why did you stop there? Because you were, it seemed like you were going for, let's say something obvious, right? If a certain player, I mean, I'm gonna throw in some Riichi terms here, but someone was going for like let's say a Chin Itsu, which is all the same suit color, or a Kokushi, um,
Okay.
13 orphans, let's say, right? And then you stop
Yeah.
at a certain tile, it has nothing to do with the hand that you're going for. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be something pretty obvious. So if someone points that out, that might lead into fights and arguments and all this confrontation. Competition rules in Japan, Riichi style at least, they're trying to be more quote quote professional about it, even though we're not pros. Try to be clean.
Yeah.
Let's be
Mm-hmm.
have that sportsmanship.
Yeah.
But because me personally, I haven't played any other rules. I've read about them and I know some of the basics of it, but I just wanted to see how the manners, if they're strict or if they're kind of loose.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience as well, if you've had any confrontations because of things like that.
Oh, we've had confrontations, but it's really more because usually for American style, it's just a bunch of ladies playing, and there can be mean girls every now and again. But yeah, there's etiquette,
Mhm,
and the challenge is that etiquette is subjective.
mhm.
What is rude to one person, it maybe
That's
is
true.
no big deal to another, and
I see. I
what
see.
is good strategy to one person might be rude to
Hmm.
somebody. So
Hmm.
it's
True.
really kind of subjective, but there
Hmm.
are really, it's really about common sense and just being kind, I think, and
Hmm.
knowing that if you're not playing in a tournament or as a competition, it's you either play in a tournament where there's a different etiquette or expectation of players, and then you play in a private game where you're playing with friends. And
Hmm.
so the etiquette, you've already got relationships established most of the times, and so
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
rarely issues in that regard in a
I see.
private game. But in a
Hmm.
meetup, it, anybody can come and play, and you have new people coming, people leaving, new people coming all the time, and so you kind of have to get used to people, and everyone's
Hmm.
got kind of their idiosyncrasies that you got to get used to,
Hmm.
and that kind of takes a while sometimes.
Hmm.
So all those sorts of things kind of go on that change the dynamic, and people have different expectations, and sometimes we have to talk about etiquette and what we do and don't do in our
Hmm.
particular group.
Hmm.
So yeah, you do have to kind of manage that, because people do get their feathers ruffled, I guess. In a
Hmm.
tournament, when you play in a tournament, there is etiquette, like
Hmm.
for just a quick example, you don't touch other people's tiles. You
Yes. Yes.
don't,
Hmm.
you don't deal anybody's tiles to other people. You don't go into someone's rack or into
Hmm.
somebody's, space to touch their tiles by any means. You
Hmm.
just keep your hands to yourself, kind of a thing. So
Hmm.
there are, certain rules like that.
Hmm.
And those are usually discussed or written and given to attendees so
Okay.
that
Beforehand.
everybody has the same, so that everyone
I see. I
has
see.
the same expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
if they don't know, and,
Hmm.
they could be corrected.
Hmm. I see. I see.
by the tournament director, let's say.
And when you hold your meetups, especially if there's a new player that comes in, do you let them know ahead of time, or do you kind of wait to see what kind of person that person is, and just point things out if it gets out of hand accordingly? Do you
Yes.
do it up front?
Yep. It depends. Sometimes people who are looking for a group will send me an email or call me, because for a long time I had my phone number on my website, so I would actually get phone calls, and so I would talk to people in advance. And if you can talk to the leader of any given group, I think that's a really good guideline, because then you can get the skinny from them, so that you know what to expect when you go to play for the first time. And then once you start playing with a new group, if there are any issues, I think the best thing to do is to just pull that person aside who is maybe making people uncomfortable, pull them aside one-on-one and have a face-to-face chat. Because if you let it go, it could embitter people, and then you have some firefighting to do, and you don't want it. You don't want it to get that far. You want to nip it in the bud and just say, something that you did upset somebody. I'm not going to name names, but if in the future, please do not do this or that. And we have that understanding, and then we continue. And if it repeats, then I say, look, we talked about this once before. You really need to pull back on this or that, whatever the problem is. I've had to ban a few players from my meetup before for bad behavior. I've had to ban 3, actually.
I see.
And it's unfortunate and difficult to do. But, if you have somebody who's coming in and just sabotaging your group with bad behavior, you got to protect your core players and try to keep the joy in the game.
Yes, we
I guess as a group leader.
Yeah, we know exactly how you feel. We don't want to ban people. Just sometimes it happens, so we got to do it.
Yeah, we don't want to be a bad guy, but we got to protect the core players.
Michele, also, do you do the teaching session for like?
Oh yes, yes I do. I teach at the JCC, which is the Jewish Community Center. I offer American style classes there, and then in my Riichi meetup, I have a fundamentals class lesson, and I have a strategy lesson every other Sunday posted. And I'm just hoping to attract people, because I'm willing to teach. I mean, I'm still learning myself, but I know enough to teach people how to play the game.
Yeah, hope these shows could...
And I know how to tell people to go to Dana Chiba's primer. I can give them the website.
Yeah, that is one of the few, I think, Riichi strategy books or information out there in general. There's not too many.
In English, yeah.
Yeah, in English. We spoke to, so there was a World Riichi Championships in Las Vegas this past October of 2017. So myself and some of our members, we participated in the group. In the tournament, and we were lucky enough to talk with some of the Japanese pros that came.
Wow. And
we took some interviews, videos, and we asked some questions on the side, and most of them, they did say the same thing. They see an increase in the non-Japanese market for Riichi Mahjong growing, and they want to push some kind of English strategy book, whether maybe even a video. But it's that language barrier that they're trying to not resolve, but to confront and overcome.
Right, because it is a bit intimidating, I must say, and I think that's one reason why I think a lot of my American style friends are apprehensive, because they think they need to know how to speak Japanese in order to play, and that's just not true.
It is very difficult, but. I've heard, this is a rumor, but I have heard that there's something in the works. They didn't really specify when or from which outlet, but stuff to look forward to when it comes to Riichi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
somehow this is
Yeah.
from my information, but somehow a lot of Japanese pros or the Mahjong related guys, they use Twitter. That's why we are recommending American
For
players to
social
use
media.
Twitter. Yes,
Okay.
like posting the
I
pictures
never got
and
into Twitter. I
yeah,
could never. I tried.
yeah.
Mhm.
I just could never keep up with it.
We want
Mm.
everyone to post the
But
pictures.
maybe that's one way that I could try to make some
Yeah,
connections.
we need
Mhm.
to let them know there's a bunch of players. That's what we're trying to do. Somehow, American
Okay.
Yeah.
players they use Discord, they use YouTube, they use something else, but not Twitter.
Yeah. There's a cultural difference in between what social media to use. Like, let's say, Facebook is pretty worldwide, obviously. Twitter, we thought initially was worldwide too, but some countries use Twitter more heavily than others.
Okay.
Discord, I think, is a more Western platform, mainly for games, but
Right.
not too many Mahjong players in Japan at least use Discord. Is
Okay.
the information that I have. So we're trying to bridge the gap, be some kind of connection point. So yeah, I like what Masa was saying was since a lot of the professionals do use Twitter, granted, yes, they post in Japanese, but they do post
Oh.
what would you discard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots
or
of
something, a
discussion.
scenario where they ran into where they didn't know what to discard, or they had trouble finding out what it was. Eventually, they did discard something, but sometimes it turns out good, sometimes it doesn't. So they open up the discussion for others, and we've translated some of them in English and shared it and try to get input, and we translate it back in Japanese and tell the pros, hey, this is, and there's been some back and forth, but yeah, again, that is one strategic advice from a
Mm-hmm.
professional, and yeah, you don't have to buy anything too, so it
Yeah.
kind of works out for everybody. Yeah, but
I'm just
yeah,
taking notes on that.
mm.
Awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, manners are something that we have been trying to emphasize, because we were able to play with the pros, and the professionals in Japan are, wow, it's just amazing. They don't slam the tiles. Their posture when they play is
Mm.
nice and straight. They don't cross their legs when they're sitting down. They don't, all these things that might be rude to a specific demographic, while the others may not be. So
Mm.
this, interesting. Maybe it's culture. Maybe it's in general where you grew up. But yeah, we're trying to make a standard here in Los Angeles, and Masa is one of our instructors when it comes to manners. He has been
Okay.
pushing that, and yeah, I think all of us here in Los Angeles could agree that Masa is manner wise at the top.
Manner police.
Wow. Very nice.
But
Yeah.
I have learned from somebody else.
So yeah. Well, then again, somebody has to be the leader, somebody has to be the teacher. So
Right.
yeah, in Michelle's case, we've heard that because she is the group leader, she had to pull people to the side. So some of you
Mm-hmm.
guys, the listeners out there, if you do create a new group, because you are the leader at that point, you have to take the initiative
Mm-hmm.
and do whatever's necessary. It might be a hard job to do, but you created the group for a reason, we believe, and we just want you to follow through that passion. um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, coming from someone experienced and who's been teaching for quite some time, right, Michelle? So
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
learn it the hard way sometimes, but at the end of the day, I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is a people, you're playing against people, so what's
Right.
the
It's
purpose?
very social. It's
Yeah.
very social. I mean, well, it depends too. If you're playing in a private or meetup, it's social. But if you're in a
Mhm.
tournament, I think you're going more competitive and
Oh
pro in
yeah,
some
yeah,
cases. So
that's true.
the environment is a little bit different between the two formats. But
Mm,
either way, I think there should be some level of etiquette, really.
mm. So, when you teach, or even when you hold your meetups, what's the age range?
Okay.
Like, yeah, what's the
Yeah.
youngest and what's the oldest too? And the average too, and the average.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it really depends on what style. As far as, let's see. Well, for Japanese style, the age is typically mid-20s to, I'd say, 40s. As far as, you know, the range. And I don't know if I could pick an average, probably somewhere in the middle. For Cantonese style, it's probably about the same. For American style, it's more like 40s to 90s.
Oh wow,
90s.
90s.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I'd say probably the average. I mean, a lot of American style players are retirees, so maybe 65 is the average age. I mean, there are so many players, though. I don't know how accurate those numbers are, but in my experience, most American style players are 40s all the way up to, you know, their golden years. You know, as long as they can see the tiles and think clearly, they can play Mahjong. That's one of the benefits of playing the game. It keeps your mind active.
Yeah.
I've taught as young as 9 and as old as 90.
And that person, did they start from zero, from scratch?
Well, let's see. The 9-year-old, yes. This 9-year-old was sharp. I mean, this 9-year-old did better than the adults. I'm not kidding. It was amazing. I was concerned when that 9-year-old came and sat down. I was a little concerned, but boy, oh boy, he really picked up the game. But and so, I'm sorry. What was your question? I was thinking. I was all distracted by this young kid, and I forgot your question.
Well, aside from the age range, you know, how
okay.
If they started from scratch or not.
Yeah, if they started from scratch. Most people start from scratch. When I teach, I offer what I call boot camp, where I teach them the whole game in one session. The whole game, so that they have everything they need to know to play the game. And then the skill and the being comfortable making decisions comes with time. And then I offer what I call a skill builder for people who already know how to play and want to improve their game. So that's typically how I do it. So when I do lessons, I offer either, you know, a single boot camp where they can learn and pick up the game, and then they have the option to hire me for a skill builder where I come in and bring in more strategy and work one-on-one and do coaching. And we do things like focusing on decision-making and also speed. Speed with your decision-making, because sometimes people take too long.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Well, what's the average game time?
For American style, it really depends on how skilled you are. For beginners, a game could take 20 minutes. For skilled players, 12. So it's a bit longer game than Asian versions, but the game is played in phases, 2 phases or 2 parts. There's, phase 1 is have you ever heard of a poker game called Pass the Trash?
I personally haven't. Masa, maybe?
No.
Have you heard of Pass the Trash? Basically, you get 5 cards and you pick 3 of the 5 and you give them to the person on your right.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You give them to the person on your right, and then you take the 3 cards from the person on your left and you try to make a poker hand out of it. Okay. Well, in American style, we do kind of a pass the trash, but it's called the Charleston, which is named after the 20s flapper dance. Okay. So that's phase 1, and we do the Charleston in. There are 2 Charlestons where you pass the tiles up to 6 times. And so you're basically, in essence, getting 3 picks at one time.
I see.
And so you have to be able to make decisions, and sometimes people take too long. So a lot of the exercises that I do on my YouTube channel are to help people overcome the stress of making decisions during the Charleston. So that's phase one, and then phase two is the pick and discard phase, where you're picking and discarding one tile at a time.
I see.
So I think that's one reason why American style is a longer game.
I see. Yeah, the Charleston.
We learned a
That
lot of
I
things
wish they
today.
had that in Japanese Mahjong too sometimes, depending on your first draw. Yeah, I really wish.
You could
That
always
would be
just
nice.
play Pinfu.
That's true. That's true. I mean, after a couple rounds of doing that, a Tengho would be a little easier than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
Michelle,
yeah, go ahead,
gonna
Masa.
we're gonna keep doing this show for like every Tuesday about the same time. So next guest, we're planning a brand new group from Las Vegas, and then after that, we're gonna pick somebody they have experience. So hopefully, some experienced club members interview. It might help you to get some Riichi meetup for more.
So
players.
how would I be able to listen in on that? Do I just log into Discord?
Oh no, YouTube live.
Oh, so I'll watch the repost?
Yep.
Mm-hmm,
Oh, it's on the
Okay.
live stream. So
Eventually, we'll do this live. We will have this production streaming-ish process that I'm gonna have to get really good at, to be honest.
Yeah, it takes
that
time.
will get there. Yeah, that will get there. And obviously,
Okay.
you're a sensei and a teacher at that as well, based off of your experience.
we need a good
But yeah,
internet.
I think we're at an hour mark. Masa-san, any last words, comments, questions?
Oh, Michelle, I heard there's a Mahjong Riichi tournament in August in Florida. It could be close to you. Are you planning to go there?
Let's see. Is it who's hosting it?
Florida.
Do you know?
Florida, Penn City. Sorry, Ryan, I forgot their names. But there's a group in Florida, not in the Miami. Like
I'll just Google it.
okay, Emerald.
I think I might have seen something about it.
Yeah, Emerald Coast
but
Riichi.
Is it? I'm sorry.
Emerald Coast Riichi Mahjong tournament. Hold on one second.
I googled Florida Riichi, and there's a meetup that came up, but I don't see any others. But I can look and then maybe search Facebook or something.
Yeah.
But my vacation is already gone for the year, and I'm traveling to California for a tournament. So I'm kind of capped out on traveling and tournaments right now.
You say California?
Yes, I'm going to Santa Barbara.
Oh, the Santa Barbara area.
In August.
Far. In August.
Yes.
Why don't you stop?
Oh, there. Yeah, I have seen that. I see it, Crestview, Florida. I have seen that actually, and I considered going to it, but it's the same week. It's the same time that I'm going to be in Santa Barbara.
Okay, so
are you going to there just for the tournament?
Yes. Yeah. Although I am going to do some classes. I'm going to teach also.
Okay.
It's a fundraiser for a no-kill dog shelter.
Oh, okay. I see. So it seems like you might have a busy schedule. Because I was wondering maybe we could set up something.
That would have been nice. Yeah, I am booked solid the whole time, really. I don't think I even get to go to the beach. I'm gonna be doing the tournament, and then I'm gonna be teaching and playing. So, and that's going to be American style.
Oh, okay.
Which is my biggest audience right now.
Okay.
Unless we go to Atlanta, Masa.
Well, we could drive up
non-winter
to Santa
time.
Barbara might be closer.
That might be closer, yes. Yeah. I eventually want to use Mahjong as, well, not really an excuse, but, reasoning to travel to other states, compete at other tournaments, other, areas, other countries, if anything. Um, Wanted to participate in the Australia one, but
Wow.
time and did not allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
one
like,
last question.
oh,
Oh, go ahead.
yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say local's nice because then you could play more
Yeah, that's
if it's
true.
local and you could build
Yeah.
relationships, build
Hmm.
friendships.
Yeah.
I like the competition part of it, but I like the friendships too.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have a friend from Australia that came to visit us a couple times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was through Mahjong, and we have some friends in Europe now, some in the East Coast, a good chunk in Japan, obviously,
Yeah,
Brazil. So, these world tournaments, if it does happen in the US or wherever the next one would be, we hope to see them soon, at least there.
nice. Nice. They're very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep an eye on that. And
Hmm.
where do you typically post your news? Would I find that? Do you have a Facebook
Hmm.
page,
Hmm.
or so if I follow you on Facebook, I'll get to see all your activities there?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, obviously, Instagram, and a Japanese outlet called Amoeba. It's a blog site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, we have multiple outlets. But any last questions, Masa?
Yes, I have a last question for Michelle.
Yes.
So now, are we a Mahjong friend?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yay! So we made a new
We
friend
reached out to her.
today. So,
Yes, we reached it in the middle.
oh,
Okay.
Oh, I found your Facebook group and I'm joining now.
yes,
Perfect.
please.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for reaching out to me. This was a lot of
Hmm.
fun.
Cool. So yeah, we're planning to do this every Tuesday, 7 p.m. here in Pacific time. Um, Please calculate your time, your local times on your own. But yeah, next week, as Masa said, we will have a guest from Las Vegas.
I have not confirmed
And
yet, but
he
we
is
will.
going to be creating a new group. So I hope what Michelle gave us a glimpse of how she got things started would help him. And I have a feeling that we might be asking Michelle to be part of this program in the future again.
Yes.
I would love
So
to.
if you guys have
Absolutely.
any questions, leave a comment, and or you know what? Just go to Michelle's channel and ask her there.
Yeah,
Why not? Why not?
Find my Riichi playlists and comment and correct me because I'm a beginner. I'm sure you're going to see me make mistakes in Chombo, and I'm sure you'll probably see I'm Furitan and I try to Mahjong. I try to Riichi and I'm Furitan.
There was a couple. There was one video that I did see when you were playing Riichi,
Yeah,
and then you were explaining on strategy where if somebody Riichi before you, right? I think,
yeah,
and then you were trying to prevent from dealing into that person. So
yes.
explaining, if you discard something
Uh-huh.
that they already discarded,
Oh yeah.
Genbutsu, that
Yeah,
concept, and
that it's
yeah,
get. I sometimes I don't know how to pronounce them these
yeah.
words because I read them. I don't hear
Mhm.
them because I don't play live. So I
Mhm.
have to. I probably mispronounce many
Mhm.
things. But yeah, I was trying to explain. It's Genbutsu, not Genbutsu.
Genbutsu, yes.
Genbutsu.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yes, I was trying to explain that because
Yeah.
I learned that from Dana Chiba's book.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh yeah, Dinah is famous.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
Genbutsu
do something
literally
like that.
means the thing that's there.
Oh,
So
interesting. Very
it's
nice.
literally what it
Okay.
means.
Okay, awesome. I like that.
Mm. Yeah. So yeah, you guys, if you haven't followed her already, which you should have, there's plenty of time. Go ahead and check her channels out. If you're interested in other platforms, other rules, She has a bunch of playlists already sorted out for you guys. So take a look at that.
You can find me by searching for Mahjong Central.
Yep.
Or you
Mahjong Central.
Mahjong Central, or you can just type my name, Michele.
Yeah.
Michele Frizzell, and yeah.
Or Michele Mahjong. I think that
Michele,
came up too.
that you might be able to Google me. I mean, I have a lot of videos out, so yeah, I think I have like 900 videos or something.
Yeah, that might be the most. At least the ones that I've seen. Right, Masa? Maybe I think she has the most Mahjong related videos out there.
I think so.
Maybe I'm kind of a nut.
She's famous.
Yeah.
I push. I jump in with both feet whenever I do something.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
again, on a daily basis, so you guys won't be bored.
Yeah, I'm getting in a lot of practice with these exercises.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for your
You're
time
welcome.
and being part of the first reaching out to Mahjong channel here. If there's anything that we could do, vice versa, feel free to reach out. And yeah, we just made another friend, guys. Another Mahjong friend.
Well, Masa and Kenji, thank you so much. I'm honored that you chose me to be part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Goodbye,
all right. Well,
everyone.
that's it for today, guys. Stay tuned for next week.
See you next
And
week.
I will. Yep.
Good night.
Good night.